they gave me a banana. I'd like to show them where they can shove their bananas. But that's another video. The point is, I will not be the flapping lips of the regime any longer. The truth is, I love la moral and libertad. They treat me right, and they want to treat us right.
I've been racking my brain trying to find the best way to explain the experience of Far Cry, and after literally playing the game at full-time job pace over the last 3 days to write this review, I think I've nailed it. Far Cry is a Mongolian buffet. The food is adequate, the experience entirely forgettable, and every time I leave I find myself equally satisfied and full of regret. Why did I eat so much? And so fast? Did I really need that last refill on the Coke? Those crab legs looked suspicious. Didn't I tell myself the last time I was here I wouldn't come back? It's been 2.5 years since a Far Cry New Dawn, and another year before that to Far Cry 5, which means it's time to get in the saddle and head back to the fictional island of wherever to fight dictator whoever on behalf of the people of that place. Far Cry 6 takes the setting of the not Cuba island of Yara, where you play as Danny, unwilling guerrilla warrior trapped in a country she can't really flee to save her people from the evil dictator, El Presidente Anton Castillo. Does my random Spanish annoy you? Let's dig deeper.
We are Yara. And no matter what, always remember, Rosa loves you. Los amo a todos. Los amo a todos!
Safe to say I'm more of a casual passerby than a fan of the Far Cry series. I don't think I've purchased one of these games at launch since Far Cry 2, but I'm willing to throw down $15 dues to play the game for the month, so I can grab the Ultimate Edition when Ubisoft marks it down to the price of a nickel and solving a CAPTCHA puzzle 3 months out. Every new Far Cry game has become a creature of habit for me. That thing that comes around every few years that I play and leave feeling completely neutral and forget about until the next time a game comes around. 3 years later. Long enough that, unlike my fellow reviewers, I've never felt burnt out of the game. Just burned out of being set on fire. If you've played Far Cry, then you know Far Cry. The massive map is divided into 3 zones oppressed by some big name in Castillo's regime, each with their own sub-story centered around convincing the locals to help out your cause. Within each zone is a grocery list of things to make your life easier while you do other things. Clear out the checkpoints in the road and you'll have safer travel with more fast travel points. Capture military stations for resources, more fast travel, and convenient vehicle spawn points. Destroy anti-aircraft guns or you can't fly within the zone. Very simple. Anti-aircraft zones are also where you get depleted uranium for upgrades. There are fishing points, hunting areas, puzzles, FND crates, Imperial crates, ride props, roosters, gear, USB songs, cryptograms, relics, gun charms, side quests, propaganda to deface, ambushes, vehicles to collect, and you'll want to keep an eye out for resources such as gunpowder, Supremo Bond, recycled fasteners, industrial circuits, durable seals, recycled glass, industrial composite, durable plastic, vehicle scraps, camp resources, metal, gasolina, and medicine. You got all that, right? Because there's a pop quiz at the end of this review and I'm not going to repeat myself. It's easy to see why Far Cry is so divisive among gamers, because plenty of people look at that list and say, wow, what a waste of my time. Whereas other people see it and say, wow, there's a lot of content for my $60 here. Unless you're a game reviewer, in which case you're probably looking at it like, I have to do all this again? I sympathize, and I did this completely voluntarily, and I'm not even getting paid for it. One of Far Cry 6's positives is that the game has charm out the wazoo.
You win! Carajo!
Not a bad haul. Always good to have the people on our side.
Characters are fine if mostly forgettable, and Giancarlo Esposito as Anton Castillo plays a great villain. Ubisoft appears to have heard past complaints of Far Cry villains not receiving enough screen time, as Castillo seems to be far more in the spotlight. The overall feel is a cheesy blockbuster movie, one that isn't afraid to show egregious crimes against humanity 1 minute while the next having you follow a murderous rooster. It's the kind of storytelling that wants to be a big movie, but also kinda wants to be a Quentin Tarantino film. The cast of characters is huge, and people converse in Taco Bell Spanish, as I've heard, which means they season their English with random well-known Spanish words. I'm not going to claim that people don't talk like this in some places. There are some departures from the Far Cry brand that signal Ubisoft's ongoing development priorities. Ever since Immortals Phoenix Rising, the open-world RPGs have mostly transitioned away from skill trees and onto fitting benefits to gear instead of allocating skill points. I'm not a fan of Ubisoft's obvious method of inserting levels to sell experience boosts, but I have to say I don't like this new model. One thing missing from my experience in Far Cry 6 was the feeling of progression. In Far Cry 3, for example, you go from being an idiot tourist to a trained killer. And as much as people hated Jason Brody as a human, there were tangible differences over the course of the game. Danny doesn't get that, and the game design seems to suffer for it. It's like Ubisoft recognized that requiring people to constantly change their clothing to add on the benefits they give would annoy most gamers, so they simply didn't build anything that would rely on those benefits. As a result, the game is stupidly easy, save for a few moments where it just breaks. There are 2 difficulty modes, and even the top one never offered much challenge. The game also showers you in resources, seemingly far more than prior titles. There are a lot of guns and gear options to choose from, but they are woefully underused. Does Far Cry need a dozen flavors of automatic rifle? No. You'll kit out with 3 favorite guns and a pistol that works for your style, and that'll be your loadout for most of the game. There's an attempt at adding strategy by having low and high armor enemies with appropriate bullet type weaknesses, but I just grabbed a semi-automatic rifle with helmet popping mods and killed pretty much everything in 1 hit. Which brings me to the giant list of resources, most of which you'll never really care about. I went down the list for shock value. Gasolina and medicine are abundant in Far Cry 6, and those are your primary upgrade materials for the bases. I had enough materials to fully upgrade everything before I gave upgrading a second thought. That's how fast you get them. You'll need mods and stuff to upgrade your guns, but again, you do this so little that your guns are fully modded to your liking very early on, and everything else is pretty much just set dressing to use your resources because you have them. It renders other parts of the game completely useless, such as gathering more rebels to send them on missions to obtain more useless resources. You activate a mission and wait the hour of real time for it to complete, then answer a series of choices with their own probabilities for success in return for a negligible amount of crap you don't really need. Upgrades at the base give completely optional features like cooking food to get temporary buffs, and that's sort of an optional, really kind of a useless feature for, I think, most players. I do like the modding choices for weapons, just off of sheer quality and usefulness. The bullets themselves are ancillary. You grab one of each round out of your arsenal, but weapons have further mods available that offer healing, movement, etc. While you won't change your gear too much over the combat-oriented campaign, once you get into fishing and hunting, it's nice to have specific gear to make those activities easier. And while I'm at it, the fact that the game lets you change out your loadout from pretty much anywhere on the map, no matter what your situation is even better. Because who wants to go back to base just to change into fishing gear, or because you realize that you really need a grenade launcher and you didn't pack one with you? All you have to do is go into a menu, add it to your inventory, and it's there. Puzzles in Far Cry 6 are child level. For example, you might enter into a room with 3 switches and a note that says, If you're going to the destination, make sure you go right, then left, then center, in that order. I'm not expecting to decipher Morse code, but eventually the puzzles are just meaningless time wasting and number hunting compared to having a box of stuff just accessible in a room. I'm a little baffled by the ranking system for enemies, as the game regularly updates at intervals in the story, warning that enemies are now tougher, and also every area on the map has something indicating an enemy rank level. For all I know, this might be a residual mechanic from something that was removed, because I never noticed any increase in enemy toughness. There doesn't seem to be more of them, they don't hit harder, and they still go down with one bullet to the head. Maybe there are more specialists, I don't know. AI is also horrible in this game and doesn't present much of a challenge anywhere. It's easier to just spec up on stealth and go through every encounter popping heads with a silenced semi-automatic rifle. Enemies don't seem to react as well as they did in prior titles, and either the AI is broken or they were programmed not to be so quick with the alarms when invading bases. If you played Far Cry 4 or 5, you're probably familiar with the fact that letting out too loud of a fart will set off every alarm within 6 miles. I went through the entire base on high level to clear it out, and not a single person ever bothered to call for backup. The game balances this out by giving the AI pin-perfect aim. Now I'm pretty sure even a recruit in Castillo's army could circumcise a fly from a mile away with a pistol in this world. Nothing like having your reticle constantly kicked up by every enemy within the tri-state area peppering you with slivers of damage. To help the game's Instagram value, you gain access to amigos over the course of Far Cry 6 that replace the guns for hire from previous games. These animals are great for taking screenshots to share on social media, because who doesn't love a sausage dog in a wheelchair or an alligator with a t-shirt? What they aren't is useful in combat, as I watched Chorizo get repeatedly kicked to death and my other amigos just stand still and refuse to engage in combat. They also stand perfectly in doorways blocking your access, but they are cute. The expeditions in Far Cry 6 are fun diversions that have you entering an area, finding a device, and getting it back to base. The key twist here is that the device must be kept cool or it will explode, meaning you need to strategize your path to find water and shade. It's pretty fun. Far Cry 6 is definitely working against people like me who pay for a month of Ubisoft Plus hoping to get one over on the company, as the game has a bunch of content time-gated, including most of the special operations, weekly insurgencies, new gear, crossover missions, and more set to launch within the next 6 months. That's not even mentioning the 3 pieces of DLC in the Season Pass set for launch between November and March. Effectively, if you're a Uplay Plus grifter like me and you want to see all the content, it's far more cost effective to just pony up that upfront charge, or wait until March when everything is out and just pay for the month then. Ultimately, Far Cry is one of those games that you probably already have an idea of whether you're really looking forward to it, whether you're neutral and will buy it on sale, or whether you're just burnt out of the whole thing. If you're burnt out, Far Cry 6 isn't going to change your opinion. If you enjoy the game, it's not going to change your opinion. And if you're one of those people who waits for it to go on sale for $10 in 6 months, it's probably not going to change your opinion. It's more Far Cry. You already know what it is, what you can expect out of it, and what it aims to deliver. Like I said, it's the Mongolian buffet. You know what you're getting because you've gotten it before, and I'm not sure what I can say to really sell you or put you off of it. I guess what I'm saying is that this is all completely useless, and we just wasted... I guess what I'm saying is that this whole video is useless, and I wasted 40 hours in the game, plus 13 minutes to record this, and then probably another hour and a half to edit the video. Isn't life grand?